Good morning, everybody. Happy Monday. Welcome back to Time to Laugh. I'm so excited for another stream today. I hope you guys had an amazing weekend. I always feel like it's kind of funny when I am doing a stream on a Monday morning because I know probably not a lot of people have the availability to actually watch it live because it's Monday and most people have to go back to work. But my days off are Sunday and Monday. So, anyways, I like to just ask how you guys are doing. Hoping you guys are doing well. I feel like I was gonna say something or talk about something, but I can't remember now at this moment. I do know I was just gonna tell you guys I have been working on some different things over the last little bit, and I'm excited to try to get more into a routine of some certain things. So obviously, I'm going to continue doing this stream, but then I've been working on some templates for like book reviews, and I'll want to use them for different formats. So I would love to continue to write book reviews as like articles basically. I did that for a while. I think it was last year. I had a blog called Haley's Comment, and I would just write my book reviews, and it was honestly really fun. It made me more intentional in reading because then I was actually analyzing things. And obviously, I don't want to do that with every single book or overanalyze things or just not be fully immersed in the story. But it was really, really fun. And I obviously love to write. And so I want to start doing that again and posting those on my Substack, but then also just making some more content for you guys. So I have like an outline where I can write down all my information for my book reviews, and then I want to make I probably won't do it for every single book, but I do want to do some long form content for certain books and do a full fledged book review and then post it on my YouTube channel. So if you're not subscribed to me on YouTube or just haven't found my channel in general, you can look it up. It's Time to Laugh 34, same as all my other social medias. But so you can subscribe to me on there. I do want to start, I post my highlights from Twitch, and then for the ones that I've been reading the books out loud, I'm posting those just fully on YouTube. So you can go back and listen and watch those. That way I don't have to take up space on my Twitch like library basically, because you only have a certain amount of hours. So I'm posting those on YouTube. And then I do want to do some short form content in terms of book reviews. So I want to start doing some probably like 2 or 3 different videos where whether it's like a character ranking in a book or just kind of a quick review of a book. I want to start doing that a little bit more as well. So keep your eyes out for that. Those I'll be posting. I'll post them probably as shorts on YouTube, but I'll probably also post them on Instagram as reels. So if you're not following me on Instagram, Time to Laugh. That one has a period before the 34, but you can follow me on there. And I'll also post my links to my articles, like my book reviews, on there as well. So if you want to, follow me on all those different things, feel free. No pressure at all, but if you want to see my other stuff, you can do that. And then I have been working on, because today is June 1st, which is crazy. I've been working on my bullet journal spread for June, and I'm not done yet, so I'm not gonna show you guys, although I will give you a little sneak peek because I do want to post another reel. I won't have if you want to see a past bullet journal spread, I did post a reel on my Instagram for my May spread, and it was basically me. It was a time lapse of me doing it. I didn't do that for this one just because this one is a little bit more intricate. I didn't have the time to just sit down and film the whole thing. But I will give you a sneak peek of, this is the cover page, and I'm not done with it, obviously. But once I have it fully done, the spread, I will take a video of it and I'll post it on my Instagram. So again, if you want to see that, go ahead and follow my Instagram page. But if I have a little bit of time, I don't know how long. I think I'm going to be able to finish the book today. I don't know if it'll take me the full, not that I have like a time limit on this, but I try to keep it to around 2 hours just because I have other things I want to do with my day. But if I have a little time, I might work on my bullet journal a little bit on here, but the main focus will be the reading of the book because I'm almost done with it and it's so cute. And then the other thing I was going to tell you guys about is I am setting myself some challenges for June, and I just wanted to tell you guys because I always feel like when I tell people, it helps me stay accountable, but then also just wanting to give you guys a little look into my life and an insight into what I'm working on, what I'm trying to grow in, what my focuses are, all those kinds of things. And I always like doing, if I'm doing challenges, I always like doing it for a set amount of time. And I feel like a month is always good because I feel like by the end of the month, the habit or whatever you're trying to do becomes more second nature versus just trying to do it for a week or whatnot. I have had to, however, be very mindful of the fact that I can often try to do too much at the same time and I'll make myself overwhelmed. So I'm trying to keep it simple this month, and I have been having a lot of good conversations with one of my friends about just nutrition, health, all the different things. And so I'm trying to be a lot more mindful this month about nutrition and just eating in general. So my main thing, because my main focus right now is trying to get rid of anything that's not serving me right now. Because a lot of times I feel like when I'm trying to, build new habits or whatever, I'm so focused on, okay, I got to do this, I got to do this, I got to add this. And I just get overwhelmed with all the things I have to do or add to my life. And I think the first step in building the foundation of a new habits and really starting yourself well in habit stacking is getting rid of things that aren't serving you. So for me, my main goal and challenge for this month is no screens while I'm eating food. So I am what I feel like is the definition of an iPad kid as an adult. And I will always watch something when I'm eating. I'll make my food, I'll come sit at my desk, I'll put a YouTube video on, and I'll eat my food while I watch a YouTube video. And my friend was telling me it is such a detriment to your body and to how you are experiencing food, and even just learning how to understand your body's cues for food because you're so distracted and it's so mindless. And I know that that's true for me. And so I can just like inhale food and not even know if I'm full or not even know if I'm enjoying the food because I'm watching something. And so it's just a mindless activity for me. And I don't want that to be the case because I want to have a healthier relationship with food. And even I find myself, I love snacks. I mean, I love food in general, but I love to snack, and I often find myself snacking when I'm bored. So if I'm just watching a movie or I'm watching a show or whatever, I'll just go grab a random snack and just start eating, and I'll just eat the whole time, even if I'm not hungry or whatever. And so that's obviously not good for me because one, most of the time my snacks aren't healthy, and two, it just is unnecessary activity, unnecessary food that I'm putting in my body. And so all that to say, my main goal for this month is to not have any screens while I'm eating. So that includes my Kindle, that includes my phone, that includes my laptop, no screens. So I'm just trying to be as present as possible while I'm eating food. Obviously, I'm going to give myself grace in this, all the different things, but that's my main challenge. So I'm telling you guys so that you can help keep me accountable. But yeah, I think it's going to be really good for me. And then the other one, this is not necessarily a challenge per se, but I've been seeing so much stuff about Japanese floor mattresses and floor sleeping in general. And I'm very interested in it because I have struggled for a long time with back pain. And so many of the people that I've seen post videos about it have said that their back pain has gone down like crazy once they've adjusted to sleeping on the floor or sleeping on a Japanese floor mattress. And the main thing that I saw is Western mattresses are so soft, and what actually happens is your muscles actually have to be activated while you're sleeping in order to stabilize your body because you're on something that's soft and unstable. And so your body's not fully at rest versus sleeping on either the floor or just a floor mattress, which is basically anywhere from 4 to 6 inches thick. And when you're sleeping on a firmer surface, your body actually is stable, and so your muscles can fully relax and you can actually be fully at rest. So I'm gonna try it out. I got a Japanese floor mattress off of Amazon. It's probably not the highest quality. It's probably not the best one that I could get, but we're balling on a budget. So I got that, and tonight is gonna be my first night sleeping on it. Got to make sure that I air it out, fold it up, whatever. But I'm excited because hopefully, one, it'll help my body, but two, it'll give me more space in my room because my bed, I mean, it's a twin, so it's not like it's huge, but it does take up a decent amount of space. And I have bookshelves and my desk and a keyboard and all these different things. And so I'm hoping because I can fold it up every day, I can just, my room will feel bigger. So yeah, I'm going to start that tonight, and that's kind of exciting. I'll definitely keep you guys updated. I know that it's going to be an adjustment for sure. So I might, because I was asking ChatGPT, as we do, how to better help my body adjust to sleeping on a floor mattress. And one of the things it said was, it's sometimes smart to not just go straight into it, like 7 days in a row, just fully sleeping on the floor mattress. So depending on how my body feels, I might just do anywhere from 2 to 4 nights the first week just to see how my body feels, and like I'll go back and forth. But I kind of want to just full send it and see how it goes. And obviously I know that there's going to be an adjustment period. So then I know there's going to be days where I wake up more stiff, all the different things. But as long as I'm not in like pain, I'm just going to keep trucking because I am really hoping it's going to help me. And also, I am hoping the thing that, what am I trying to say? I'm also hoping that something it will help me with is just moving my body a little bit more. I mean, realistically, you're having to squat down, get on the floor, get up in the morning, all those different things. So it just keeps you more mobile anyways. But one of the things that ChatGPT said would help is to make sure you stretch at least a little bit before you go to bed and then when you wake up. So I'm hoping that'll kind of just get me moving more, because that's something that I have also not been doing very well, is moving my body and working out. So hopefully all of those things together will help. But again, trying not to get myself too overwhelmed with all the things I'm trying to do, rather just taking some things out that aren't serving me. So specifically the no screens while eating. That's my main thing. So I'm going to do a post about this on Instagram, and would love to kind of interact with you guys a little bit more on it. But yeah, just wanted to tell you guys and just kind of give you an update on my goals for this month. And yeah, and now we will get into reading, because that is what this is for. So I'm going to dive right back in. I will switch my thing over so you guys can see. The book I am reading, Bink, is The Chalet Next Door by Cassandra Joelle. And I'm reading this book with permission from the author. She so graciously allowed me to read her book on my stream out loud, and I've been loving it. So it's been super fun, and I'm very grateful for her letting me read this out loud. So I am currently on chapter 9, and it's a dual perspective book, so it goes back and forth between the main girl character, Presley, and the main guy character. For some reason, I cannot remember what his name is. I'm so sorry. This is the one, not bad thing, but this is the one struggle with exclusively reading a book on stream, because I read it on a Monday, and then to be honest, don't really think about it for the rest of the week, because I know I can't read it again until the next Monday. And so I remember mainly what the story is about and what's going on, but sometimes I just forget the characters' names. So anyways, I'm sure it'll come up, but Ford. It was right there in like the first sentence. Ford is the male main character. Presley is the female main character. Basically what's happening, she is a book publisher. She goes on vacation to a chalet in Colorado, I think. And there's a big snowstorm. Her chalet loses power. The fireplace that's in her place basically like smokes her out because it wasn't installed right. And so she goes to the neighbor, who ends up being Ford, who also owns all the chalets. He is a professional ski jorer, which is when you get pulled by a horse through like a racetrack basically on skis. And so she is now staying at his chalet as a guest, and they are just kind of like living in the same world for now and navigating the getting to know a stranger, but also kind of starting to have feelings. So, okay, chapter 9, Presley. Ski, pray, misconstrue. I couldn't believe what I had heard. All of my greatest fears came true at that very moment when I decided that I would pause the movie and wait for Ford to return. I wasn't trying to listen in, but the open concept and his sky-high ceilings didn't make it hard for voices to carry in this chalet. Plus, he sounded so joyful. I wanted to hear him happy, so I may have slowed my breathing as I craned my neck. I may have ensured Priscilla, her dog, stopped chewing on her toy for a moment so I could hear the happiness exuding from this brooding cowboy. But it was then that I heard the words, "She's just a lot." All of my insecurities came rushing back to me. I was too much for men. I wasn't enough of whatever they thought they needed to see me as wife material. It was devastating. I quickly unpaused the movie. I would act as though nothing had happened. I wouldn't let Ford know I'd heard those words coming out of his mouth. It was too embarrassing for me to know it, let alone if he knew that I had heard it. I wanted to save myself from that confrontation. The room felt stuffy, which was impossible because it was quite possibly the largest living room I'd ever been in if you counted its height. I needed to remove myself from this situation, to hide from Ford, to hide from myself. Lord, help me. I scooped up Priscilla and the chew bone she was so eager to continue her masterpiece on, and briskly went up the stairs. I made it right before I heard Ford open his office door again. He would have seen that I was gone by now, since the office went right into the living room. My heart ached at the situation. Here I was, thinking we were jiving. The past few days were a blast. He was opening up to me and sharing. We just had an incredible day on the slopes together, and a moment I thought was worthy of a kiss. And we had a moment where I really thought we bonded over forgiving those who have hurt us. No matter what I recalled from the day, I felt stupid, silly, insignificant. Not only was all of that in my head, Ford did not have feelings for me like I had shamefully thought, but right now he was probably feeling relieved to be away from me. If only I had realized this sooner. I grabbed my phone from my nightstand and looked up hotels in the area. Turned out the books had turned. Many cancellations likely happened since the roads were still closed, and one hotel was having a special deal for tonight. I could get out of Ford's hair and let him have his bedroom back. I could leave Sage Mountain first thing tomorrow. I couldn't click the book now button fast enough. It was done. All I had to do was quickly pack my belongings, and I would be out of this grumpy cowboy's hair forever. Okay, let me go back really quick. Okay, yeah. I went back to the previous chapter, and I like this dual perspective because she overlaps it a little bit, where a lot of the times in a dual perspective you get the perspective from the one character, and then the next chapter it switches to the other character, but it just kind of picks up where you left off, and then it just goes from there. But this one, there's a little bit of overlap, so you kind of like, you see the scene for the first time, or you read the scene for the first time, and then the next chapter will start, and it just overlaps just a little bit, so you can see that same scene from the other person's perspective, and then it goes into what happens next. So for this one, Ford was on the phone with his manager, Jack, and he was telling him about what was going on, and his manager asked about the neighbor, because Ford hadn't given him very many details, but he had asked about the neighbor and said, is your neighbor pretty? And Ford replies, if you must know, her name is Presley. She's just... I paused, trying to find the right words to describe this incredible woman. A lot, Jack cut me off. So he said a lot because he was going to say a lot more. He was going to say a lot more stuff, but then Jack cut him off and said, oops, sorry, Ford, I'm getting another call. See you tomorrow. So he was going to describe her and say how incredible she was, but all she heard was she's just a lot. So now she is spiraling, which is unfortunate and also very relatable. Okay. It was done. All I had to do was quickly pack my belongings, and I would be out of this grumpy cowboy's hair forever. There was just one problem. The roads were still closed. I looked at the local community digital digital bulletin board for the town, and it said the tentative opening date was tomorrow. Turned out there was a problem with the fleet of trucks they used to plow the major interstates, some sort of manufacturer recall, and since they were all brand spanking new, bought by a local donor last winter to ensure something like this would never happen, they had no other vehicles to fall back on. I went to my knees and prayed. God, you sure do have a sense of humor. You have my attention. There is a lesson here I am to learn in Sage Mountain, and I'm all ears to find out what that is. Just please, Lord, spare my heart any more aching. I don't think I can handle this much rejection in one lifetime. Once my things were packed, I tiptoed down the stairs holding Priscilla in one arm and carrying my roller bag in the other hand, and quietly grabbed her food out of the fridge, slipping it into my bucket bag slung over my shoulder. Ford, sitting on the couch, stood. Is everything okay? Where are you going? He asked. Wow, he sure did play the part of a concerned, interested man. Had me totally fooled. A room opened up at the Snowy Owl Inn, and I'm going to get an early start tomorrow if the roads are open. I thought it best to get out of your hair, I said, playing it up that I was cool as a cucumber. After all, like a cucumber, our bodies are 90% water. Yeah, I was a cucumber that felt like I could cry at any moment. Oh, are you sure you want to go there? What if the walls are paper thin, or what if they have bed bugs? Why was he questioning it? He should have been relieved that he was done with me. What's your game here, Ford? I set my luggage down and put my free hand on my hip while I waited for an answer. I mean, we've spent several days together, every meal together. Priscilla adores you. I thought things were heading in a totally different direction. I picked the handle of my bag back up, feeling emotion hiding closely behind my eyes, and I didn't want to give him the satisfaction. No man deserved my tears ever again. Before he could respond, I opened the door. And then you tell your manager that I'm just a lot? Well, here's a lot, Ford. I was really starting to fall for you. I mean, for who you are. Yes, you're drop dead handsome, so I'm sure that you get this a lot, but I really was getting to know the real you. And you know what? I'm thanking you. Thank you for showing me your true colors right now when I can still walk away, before I'm so head over heels that I'm quitting my job and moving here to be with you. Ford's jaw dropped, and I took a deep breath. I'm praying for you, Ford. Take care, I said as I walked out of his chalet and his life forever. The tears finally escaped the corners of my eyes once I was outside. I saw him walking to the door from the window of the chalet, probably in an effort to help me with my bags. I was sure he wanted me out of there as soon as possible after all, but it was no use. I tossed them in haphazardly, skis to follow, and then Priscilla and I got in the car. I could still see my breath in front of me because it was so cold in the Yukon. Ford was right about one thing. The Snowy Owl Inn was worn out. The walls were paper thin. Thankfully, there weren't many other guests, but the guests who were there could be heard from every angle of my room. Since I hastily packed at Ford's, I was saddened to realize I had forgotten Priscilla's boots and jacket. I must have left them by the door. I was tempted to put out some newspapers for her to potty on rather than risk her catching a cold or getting frozen in the elements, but I didn't want to start any bad habits either. So, before bed, we grudgingly took a walk down the dark and dingy hallway to find an outside area. Thankfully, she was in and out, and my blow-dryer would help warm up her frozen paws. Priscilla's inner monologue. This mattress is lumpy. I wish to take it up with management. The lighting in the room was dimmer than I'd hoped, and the front desk had mentioned as much considering the town's power was still out. They'd asked if I was running a lamp and a TV at the same time as a blow-dryer to unplug one item lest they might blow a fuse. But by the looks of the place, I didn't think that had anything to do with the power being out, but everything to do with the age of the building. Later on, when Priscilla was warm and dry and sleeping next to me in the saggy, uncomfortable bed, I longed to be back at Ford's. Swatting away those thoughts, I turned back to God, revealing my feelings and all of my heart. When I awoke the next morning, the sky was clear for the first time since I had arrived. The constant stream of fat snowflakes had finally stopped falling. The temperature had risen by 10 degrees from what it had been averaging, and after a moment I could hear cheering from outside. I climbed out of bed. My legs were sore and stiff from all the skiing, but looked out the window and watched all of the excited skiers walk by. I wished for a moment I could join them. I opened the old window with its crank and listened to the cheers. From the sounds of it, the power had finally been restored, and the roads were reopened, right in time for the winter games. I was going to make the comment because I was just noticing a couple different things. One, I noticed I kind of like this book. It is a little bit shorter because there's sections of time that she's kind of skipping over, which I do think is good in a lot of ways because you already kind of know her thought process. You already know what she's feeling, which is a testament to how she has presented the characters and established the characters and who they are. So you don't have to get into this constant, like, reel of she's thinking the same thing, she's saying the same things, all the different stuff. Because I think that's something that annoys me sometimes with certain characters. And it's not even necessarily the writing style, it's just how they present the character. But they just spend so much time rehashing how a character feels about something, and it can just get kind of old and annoying. And I don't feel like she's doing that, which is nice because it's very clear that she's kind of an overthinker and she has this maybe trauma, but she has these insecurities that she is too much for people. And so that's very well known to us as the audience. And obviously she'll mention it, she'll have a thought, but she doesn't dwell on it in the writing specifically. And I like that. Yeah, okay. I looked at my phone. My reservation at my chalet was good until tomorrow. What if I just went back there and slipped out for one last day of skiing today? Surely the slopes would be less busy with so many attending the games. And what if, after skiing, I stopped by and was a spectator at the winter games? Honestly, it would be devastating to leave this cute little town on this note, especially without seeing the event that I've been hearing nonstop about since before I even arrived. But did I really want to risk seeing Ford? My mind was searching for a way to bring him up, and then I had it. Sigh. As self-betraying as it sounded, I did want to see Ford. I knew that he didn't like me, and I didn't care. Every bone in my body was drawn to him, and not just for his looks. I meant what I said last night. I liked him. I cared for him, and I realized it was time to pray for him, right at this very moment. Amen, sister. Amen. It's so true. There's been so many times in my life where I've either had an issue with somebody, had a conflict with somebody, or was just thinking about somebody, and the best thing you can do, whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, specifically when it's a bad thing, the best thing that you can do is pray for them, because there's such a release when you pray for somebody, because you're honoring them while also just sharing with God what you're thinking and feeling. And especially when it's a struggle, it's so freeing to pray for them, and just honestly, it helps you just surrender it and just let God be in control of it. So anyways, highly encourage. In 1 hour's time, the procession for the Winter Games would begin. I knew from watching it once before, many years ago, it was much shorter than the build-up to the Olympics, but also fun, with intricate takes on the sports included. There would be shots from the ice skaters, the ski racers, and the ski jumpers. Heck, Olympian Theo McCain was hosting the event. It was a pretty big deal. No one would blame me if I wanted to stick around and watch. I could have always taken a page out of Ford's book and worn a disguise. Ha! The idea sounded so silly, and yet I was racking my brain to figure out what that could be. Then it hit me. Ford didn't know I was here. The roads reopened. I told him I was leaving if they were. I told him I was leaving if they were. Surely he had an early start this morning and was away from his chalet. I could have slipped into mine, cranked on the heat, and worn the other ski jacket that I brought in case of emergencies. The emergency related to wearing white ski clothes of any kind almost always involved spilling hot chocolate on your coat or pants. It was always best to wear dark pants due to the risk of sitting in something, since the material of ski pants attracts stains. You sit in something once, doesn't matter if it's food, drink, or grease from a chairlift, dripping from the metal ropes, ski clothes cling to it, absorbing the discoloring in every level of its fibers. That's why I always brought a second coat. Though I hadn't been skiing in years, I found this bright cherry red jacket that was more of a puffer style than my last one. I also had different goggles, which I would wear today anyway because the pair I'd been wearing were low light. These others were more of a UV blocking for brighter light. It was perfect. Ford would notice me if I was wearing my white jacket and goggles that he had seen before, but now I was in a red coat and black goggles. It didn't occur to me immediately that it might have been strange to wear ski goggles to a spectator's event, but I didn't care. My plan was still to ski beforehand, and that's what I was going to do. The Snowy Owl Inn checked me out in a dash, as they were pleased to get the room turned over for another unfortunate soul to experience, now that the highways had opened back up. They thanked me for staying with them and gave me a voucher for a free coffee at the shop next door, which I was grateful for, since there was no coffee maker in the room. "Oh, miss," the front desk attendant called out to me while I was leaving, Priscilla in my arms and roller bag in the other hand. I turned back. "There's a message here for you." Curiosity got the better of me as I wheeled my bag back to the front desk and took the note. The only problem was it wasn't legible. "I'm sorry, someone spilled their coffee on it." The woman motioned to the man standing next to me as she rolled her eyes. The only word I could make out was Ford. My heart sank. Could he have been trying to reach me to apologize? Was there any coming back from this? I hoofed it the few blocks to where I had parked last night. The streets were much busier this morning, with people trying to pile in and out, both those who had been stranded and wanted out and those dying to get into Sage Mountain. Once I loaded the Yukon and Priscilla was securely in her car seat, I made the short few-minute drive to the row of chalets. As soon as the chalets were in view, I saw Ford's truck at the horse stables across the way. My stomach filled with nerves, both feelings of excitement and dread simultaneously. He knew my vehicle. He would see it parked outside of the chalet. I had to think fast. Did it really matter if I was still here? Did it change anything? After several moments of panicked reflection, I realized that it didn't matter. I didn't want to play games. He knew how I felt, and I know how he felt. You think you know how he feels. If my being here irritated him so much that he had a problem with it, that was on him. So I pulled into the chalet without fear. I didn't make a big deal about unloading. I just grabbed my roller bag, Priscilla out of her car seat, and calmly walked to the front door. Punching in the key codes, I held my breath, but the door chimed and, most importantly, unlocked. Thank you, Jesus, for electricity. Walking in, the chalet had been working hard to warm up since the power was restored. It wasn't too cold, and the heat was on full blast. I stood over the vents and felt the warmth cut through my cold hands. Priscilla acted as though she'd returned home after being stranded on the streets. I'd never seen her so happy. She was a spoiled dog who loved luxury stays. What am I going to do with you, Priscilla? I asked her. She tilted her head at me and pounced. I remembered her chew toy she'd been working on carving since we got here and retrieved it out of my purse. One last trip outside for her, and I was ready to go. I looked out the window and saw that Ford's truck was gone from the horse stables. Phew! After last night's confrontation, I wasn't ready for another one, no matter how much I yearned to see him, and that jawline of his. Wearing her lime green sweater, Priscilla and I made our way outside, with me coaching her to be quick about it. The weather was still warming up, so I didn't feel quite as bad about her being coatless and shoeless, but I still didn't want her getting frozen paws. The second we stepped outside, Ford was standing on my porch to greet me, holding Priscilla's shoes and jacket. Presley, he spoke, breathless. His truck was behind him on the road, and attached to it was a horse trailer. A man was in his passenger seat. I surmised it was likely his rider. Hi, Ford. My voice shook as Priscilla went to him and begged him to pick her up. He hesitated for a moment, handed me her coat and shoes, and petted her on the head. Go potty, Priscilla, I commanded, to which she looked like she might throw a fit, but ultimately it was freezing out, and she obeyed, walking to a clear spot in the yard. I just wanted to say, Ford choked on his words. It was clear he wanted to make an apology of some sort, to which I accepted. Look, Ford, it's okay. I've been through this many times before. I'm good. I accept it, and you don't need to apologize. I put my hands up, pleading. Go, do your ski joring. I'm praying for a win. I really am. I meant what I said. I had a feeling this man would be in my prayers for a long, long time. Thank you, but last night after you left, I didn't have a way of contacting you, and the Snowy Owl Inn didn't have a way to dispatch me to your room, so I left you a message, and I just wanted to ask if you would stay one more night, but seeing you here makes me think that prayer's been answered. He trailed off. So much to unpack here. For the first time in a long time, I was speechless. There's a little starlight parade tonight after the Winter Games. Will you join me? I wasn't prepared for any of this. Here I was 10 minutes ago trying to figure out a disguise so I could watch him race. Sure, I whispered. Normally I'd say something snarky like, despite my better judgment, but truthfully, this had never happened before. No man had ever stood before me after getting to know me and truly wanted to see me again. That being said, the bar wasn't low, it was higher. I wanted a man just like the one that Ford was portraying at this very second, but not the one he was last night, in secret. Thank you. I'll meet you here. Pick you up at, say, 6 o'clock? I gotta go. We're required to show up in 10 minutes or risk being disqualified. He smiled. What are you doing here? Don't be late. Go! I laughed and watched as he navigated through the icy street to get to the driver's side of his truck and then drove off. Priscilla ran back inside. What in the world was that about, Priscilla? I asked her, with my hand on my hip. Lord, have I looked at this situation wrong? Yes, girlfriend, of course you have. After a few moments in silent prayer, I felt a wave of energy wash over me. My sore legs aside, I was here to ski, and this was my last day to do so. Priscilla was already snoozing in her warm bed again, right where she was when we first arrived all those days ago. It was time to hit the slopes. Skiing by myself wasn't as much of a joy as it had been with Ford. I was expecting some idle chat in the gondola like always, but today everyone in there was foreign and speaking German. Then, at the top of the mountain hosts were slammed with a line of people. If I were to get a consultation on my best runs today, I'd spend half the morning waiting. So, instead, I tried to remember the runs that Ford took me on instead. All was going well until a group of snowboarders came up behind me. The snow-scraping noises they made as they carved off the inches of fresh powder made me panic. Were they in control? I couldn't exactly turn around, so instead I made an abrupt left and went into the trees. Oh gosh. The trail in here was narrow and steeper than I thought. I was working very hard to keep my turns tight and skis tighter as I navigated through the thick wooded trail. Finally, emerging on the other side, I came up to the start of a double black diamond. At first, I laughed. This wasn't going to do in any circumstance. Surely there was a way around this. But when I looked to the right and left, every part of the terrain around me formed into a lip of a bowl that this run was. The sign indicated the run was a double black and topped with several inches of powder, read, Dilemma. It surely was that, yes. Never in all my years of skiing had I encountered a run so daunting. I'd purposefully avoided things like this, steep, hard, and out of reach for a reason. I wasn't ready to face them. I wasn't ready to learn the skills required of me. I wasn't ready to grow for the challenge. And ain't that life? That is a straight reflection of what she's going through in her emotional and mental right now. That is awesome. I called out to God, who instantly made me think of the correlation between this run and my dating life. Oh, look at that. I love it when that happens. And this is what's funny about reading out loud, is that because I have to read a little bit slower when I read out loud, I'm like having these thoughts and then I'll say them out loud, but then it'll, be just then. I called out to God, who instantly made me think of the correlation between this run and my dating life, or at least the pathetic attempt at one. I had let everyone who hurt my feelings over the years dim my spirit, my mind, my confidence. I was good enough to find someone who loved me for me. I was good enough to do this ski run. Amen, sister. Lord, thank you for letting me rise up to the challenge. You've put the desire in my heart to find a husband, and I will not back down from it. I will also not back down from this run that I've just stumbled upon. Please keep me safe, Lord. Amen. As I prayed out loud, I heard a familiar scraping behind me start to creep closer and closer. Just as I was taking my last few breaths to attempt this descent at a perfect 90-degree angle, the scraping came up right behind me, scaring me as they made an abrupt stop and coating me in powder. I may or not have screamed, scaring them in return. The shock and fright from the snowboarder almost running into me, and the coating of powder from head to toe, freezing every part of me that had exposed skin, like my nose, mouth, and wrists, sent me moving before I was entirely ready. On the steep terrain, I couldn't stop as easily as I could on a blue or green run. Heck, even a regular black run would have been easier than this. But this run was beyond an advanced level. This was for experts only. There was only one thing I could do in this very moment, and that was get a grip before it made its complete vertical drop. Spoiler alert, I did not get a grip. I'd never screamed so much in my life. For half of the run that I remained upright and standing on my skis, my screams were coherent. For the other half, where I went down on my tail end, thankfully feet first, it was more of a groan. People usually say, it happens so fast when things like this go down. This felt like it took forever. When I finally slowed, I wondered if I had missed the Winter Games. Was it already tomorrow morning and I'd been gone all night? Could I just go home now? That's so funny. As the sliding slowed, I reached out and grabbed a hold of an aspen tree that was next to my path. From here, I would try and regain some dignity and sense of stability. Surely, a crowd would have formed at the top of the run, and they were all holding their breath to see if I was going to slide all the way back down to the base. Maybe then I could be stopped by the security of the Winter Games. Heck, maybe I could enter the games in the human bobsled category. Using all the strength I had left to get a literal grip on myself, I sat up. My skis were gone. One rogue ski pole in eyesight, but after looking at it again, I realized it wasn't mine. This must have been the skier's trail of embarrassment. There were many who came before me, those who forged this path and the things they left behind to be remembered. I made it to my feet, but my quads were trembling uncontrollably. My ears were ringing, and I felt like I had just dropped hundreds of feet in elevation in an elevator, because I had. Between the fright and the embarrassment, I thought I'd gotten my fill of skiing for the day. A quick assessment let me know nothing was broken, or maybe I just had that much adrenaline pumping through my veins. "Hey, are these yours?" a skier shouted out to me as he approached at lightning speed, holding my skis and poles. "Nah, I think they belong to that woman who slid down screaming. She already skied off. I'm just here hanging out." I reached for the skis as the man lingered. "That was pretty impressive back there. This is a really difficult run. Probably the hardest one I've ever encountered," he said, looking back. I followed his eyes and cringed at the fact that there was a crowd of people standing at the top and looking over. And here you are, having just glided down like it was a children's learning area. Clipping back into my skis, my legs felt wobbly. I could tell I was going to need a minute to get my wits about me again. "I've practiced this run a lot. I've probably done it 500 times, he said. "Well, that was my first time trying a double black diamond. I can only say I've done a handful of black diamonds in my life. At least this one wasn't full of moguls. I'd probably be requiring knee surgery right now if it was," I quipped, noticing the man was about my age. Just then, he lifted his goggles up, and I saw his face. He had a boyish charm to him as he stood there. I couldn't help but notice him lingering. "I like a woman that's fearless," he said. Wait, was he flirting with me? After that abominable scene I just put on, I was covered in chunks of ice and my throat was raw from screaming. "God sure does have a sense of humor," I said, to which he looked confused. "What do you mean?" he asked, his eyes forming a squint. "Oh, I just was up at the top of the mountain, praying for my love life and protection, and now here I am, at the bottom of the run, talking to a man. It's just funny timing is all." "I don't believe in God," he said, the words that broke my heart to hear. "Do you believe in the skis on your feet?" I asked. He looked down at his skis, which I noticed were a very expensive brand. "Sure, these are from Austria, the best of the best." He crossed his arms, his ski poles going out in both directions. "Did someone make them?" He squinted again. "Well, of course. They are handmade by an expert artisan, someone who spent years learning the trade and became a master at the skill," his voice softening as he spoke. "So, if there's no God, who made all of this?" I put my arms up and marveled at the beauty of the area we were standing in. From the large mountains to the snowy aspen groves, the sky was bright and the sun was shining, creating a sparkling on every surface around us. "There's this thing we call the Big Bang," he started to say. "Ah, so nothing created everything?" He tilted his head from side to side after I asked that question. "I mean, I wouldn't explain it like that. There's more to it." "Like what?" It was at this point of conversation with men that they usually started to get annoyed. I'd found in my experience that people do not like to question the things they have been taught or believed their whole life to be false. "I can't explain it. I just know it to be true," he said quietly. "Sounds a lot like faith," I said. "Have you ever heard the gospel?" I asked as he looked up behind him, searching for his way out as sounds of people shredding in the snow could be heard around us. "I'm not really into religion," he said. Jesus isn't a religion. It's a relationship, I said. I don't mean for that to sound cliche, but it's true. God created the heavens and the earth and everything inside of it. He sent his one and only Son, Jesus Christ, to earth, and Jesus was put to death, dying for all of our sins. When we accept Jesus into our hearts and lives and repent of our earthly ways, we are born again. Living for God means having a personal relationship with him. And you have this, a relationship with him? Or do you just think you do? He asked. I couldn't tell if he was being snarky or genuinely interested. I have it. He speaks to us all the time. It's just a matter of whether you are ready to listen, I said. He shrugged. Well, I better go. He firmly gripped his ski poles and started to glide away. Will you consider what we talked about? I asked, calling out to him. He didn't respond. Lord, I don't know what that was. I did not have witness someone immediately after a fall on my agenda for the day, but I pray that seed produces fruit. As I started to slowly go down the train in front of me, I smiled. The Lord really does work in mysterious ways. Here I was, thinking he sent me someone right after that wreck, but instead, he sent me an opportunity to add another soul to eternity with him. Lord, once again, I am reminded that all things work together for the good of your glory, not mine, and I thank you for that opportunity, and I pray that I can be ready if another one arises. Wow. I love that. That was such a beautiful depiction of how simple witnessing to somebody can be. It's just asking questions, getting them to think about the things that they think that they believe, and just it is really that simple. Like, obviously there's complexities and there's mysteries to God, and there's all these things that we can continue to discover, and there's never an end to all the things that we can learn about God and learn about ourselves. But I love that faith in God and the gospel and having a relationship with Jesus is the most important thing. And it can just be that simple for people that don't know about it, or for people that are just learning about it. You could always start that simple, and I love that. That was a beautiful scene. Okay. The double black diamond run turned into a blue after I got out of the tree grove, thankfully. My tired body was ready to have some lunch and get ready to spectate the winter games. Sadly, I felt that things were done with Ford and me. Not that they had ever started, I meant. But I had so very much hoped that they would be, oh my gosh. But I had so very much hoped that they would have been starting. Like that night we did the puzzle together. He was so sweet to join me. Or when we had hot chocolate in the lodge. We had a spark. Or so I thought. There was banter, or maybe it was his one-sided annoyance. Ford had a past, but didn't we all? From what I knew about him from the internet and what he told me, he had some emotional hurdles to jump. And I prayed that when he did and he was ready for a relationship, the right woman would come along for him. I just wished that it had been me. Once I reached the bottom, I skied until I ran out of snow and walked back to the chalet. It was time to get ready for the winter games. Okay, that was the end of chapter 9. Chapter 10, Ford. Ew. Okay. Chapter 10, Ford. Cowbells and comebacks. Walking through the athlete performance tent this morning was surreal. As I looked around, I felt the excitement racing through everyone's veins, including my own. Could this have really been my last competition? Was God putting it on my heart that I was ready to move on, or was I choosing to give up? Would waving the white flag of surrender and walking away from fame have been for myself, or would it have been for God? I had so many things to consider. Inherently, the sport was not against God, but my life these last several years had been, even when I didn't realize it. It had been against him because it wasn't for him, and that's what I was set out to change now. Oof. Ooh. That's a great, that's a good little personal heart check. There's a difference between living your life and living your life for God. That's really good. Okay. Oh, excuse me. Okay, I'm going to start that paragraph over again. Inherently, the sport was not against God, but my life these last several years had been, even when I didn't realize it. It had been against him because it wasn't for him, and that's what I was set out to change now. I didn't see that fully until now. When I decided to walk away from ski joring, it was not because I was sick of the sport. It was because my soul was yearning for something greater than I had to live for. Thank you, God, for showing me that. Today, I would race as I had the last several years in winter games. I would not worry about tomorrow or what was to come in my future. If I left the sport, so be it. If I stayed and competed again, it would be for God's glory. And to think how spending a few days with a stranger, the woman whom God had placed in the chalet next door, title drop, opened my eyes to what had needed to be done all along. Ford Prescott? A sharp, high-pitched voice was heard behind me. Instantly, the hair on the back of my neck stood up. Poppy. Or should I say Mrs. Trent Langley? I said in a regretfully sarcastic tone. Truth was, I was past this. I was ready to forgive. I just needed to do it. You heard? She didn't look thrilled for being a newlywed who was married to the person who ran this whole resort. Hard not to. It was trending between Avalanche Rescue Dog Team and how to de-ice a mustache, I mumbled. Ugh, how could I find the words to say what needed to be said? Look, Poppy. I started to hammer out a sentence, but she shook her head. I'm sorry, Ford, for everything. I've had a lot of time to think about my actions, and I'm not proud of how things went down with us. I want you to know that it wasn't right or fair leaving you like I did. You didn't deserve it. I'm happy with Trent, but I could have gone about those things in a much more respectful way, and I want you to know that his kids hate me. Toby is all I have left, so the world is taking out revenge on me. Ha ha. Poppy had a sadness to her as she spoke. I wasn't aware that Trent even had children. I took it all in, as much as my body wanted to hate her and tell her what I thought of saying if I ever came face to face with her. Over these last few months, my heart told me otherwise. I forgive you, Poppy. Her eyes watered, and she started to reach for a hug, but stopped herself. I wasn't about to reciprocate, not with all these press people around. The last thing I needed was a front page in the sports section to have a large picture of me and Poppy in an embrace. The Holy Spirit felt ever present in that moment, as I remembered a verse I had heard long ago about God forgiving us and never thinking about the sins again. I wished that for myself at this stage in my life. I felt my breath releasing all the hurt and anger, the last of which was all I had left for her. Thank you, Ford. Her words faded out as more and more people joined the tent. I opened up a sports drink and held it up to her, like we were going to say cheers to her marriage, to her new life, to my new heart in Christ. I walked away. Reaching in my pocket, I pulled out my phone, dialing the only number I knew by heart. He answered on the second ring. Clint, I said, nearly falling to my knees at the sound of his voice. Oh, why, Lord, had I waited so long to forgive? Ugh. My brother, he said in return. I've got the television on, and I'm waiting for your race. Tears came to my eyes. I had no idea he followed my career. I told him I'd been thinking of him for quite some time, that I'd wanted to call but felt like it was too little or too late, that I was sorry for being so distant, that I didn't drop everything to come when Dad was sick, all the things that I wished I'd said to him before. He listened. Ford, I'm sorry for not... Oh, I'm gonna cry. Okay, give me a second. Ford, I'm sorry for not being a present person to you when you needed it. Growing up, it was all about the farm and the livestock. I wish I could go back and make a relationship with you a priority too. You don't owe me any apologies. I should have told you about Dad sooner. This is all my fault. I pushed you away, and now I'm paying for it. That broke my heart, but immediately I felt it starting to heal as once again I realized I had been experiencing what conviction by the Holy Spirit is. How would you come out to see me next week? Or I could come to you, I offered. He laughed. Boy, I have never been to Sage Mountain. I've seen photos of it in a catalog, though. Sorry, I'm crying, and my mascara from yesterday is making my eyes sting. Please hold. I don't know if that means my mascara is getting old or what's going on, but okay. Woo. Okay. Boy, I have never been to Sage Mountain. I've seen photos of it in a catalog, though. Do they still have that little candy store that makes the taffy? He asked in a childlike voice. They sure do. Sage Mountain Sweets, and it's the best taffy you'll ever eat, I said. And the ice skating rink? My wife would love that, he said. I was nearly brought to my knees when I heard he had a wife. I was so happy for him. There's so much to catch up on. I can send a car to pick you both up if that's easier, you and your wife. How about Monday? I'd love that, Ford. Thank you for inviting me into your life. I won't mess it up this time. Me either, Clint. I hung up the phone, having forgiven him truly in my heart. Now it was time for ski joring. Oh, I love that. I do feel like, I mean, it is a shorter book, and that's obviously not, like, the main part of the book, but there's part of me that does wish that there was a little bit more hashing out of, like, the past characters, and, like, even the section where it just says, like, I told him I'd been thinking of him for quite some time, that I'd wanted to call, all those different things. So instead of fully putting all of the dialogue in there, it's just kind of almost like a summary with a narration. And I feel like that doesn't happen super often in books. So I both like it and dislike it because I almost want it to be more hashed out, but I think it's good for the sake of, getting to the end of the story. Okay, anyways. Chase, I reached out and put my arm around my horseback rider and teammate Chase Mentok. Are we ready to win this thing or what? I asked, taking another swig of my sports drink while he prowled the food table, picking up a few pieces of meat and cheese. I'm so ready. I was up all night considering how the prize money could help us afford that down payment on the house, he said, as I noticed how puffy his eyes were. Yes, it's real life-changing money, that's for sure, I said, my words rambling off as I began to stress about my performance. There was a lot riding on this win, and I prayed to God right then and there that I could pull it off for the sake of Chase's family alone. My manager Jack walked up and joined the conversation. Well, boys, what a lovely day for a race, huh? Jack, trying not to talk about anything that might get in our heads or cause pressure, didn't realize that I was already doing enough of that for myself. Truthfully, I'd never considered the rider needing any of the money we won. My last rider before Chase was one of the richest people I knew and did this just for fun. The $50K he'd spent in our split of winnings was chump change to him. Once, I think I even offended him when he got his portion of a smaller check. He waved it off, telling me to keep it unless it was over $5,000, that I needed it worse. Today's prize money was just over $150K. That would mean $75,000 for each of us. Surely that would help put a dent on a starter home for Chase and his family. Thinking about people other than myself had consequences, as I was now worried to death I might fail somehow. I could see why I never did it before. Thanks for the phone, Jack, I said, holding it up. Well, I'm going to check on my racing skis. They were getting waxed a little earlier, I said, as I excused myself from the conversation. Jack nodded. He was too superstitious to wish us luck or so much as ask about how anyone was feeling. In his years of being an athlete manager, he said his favorite parts were securing brand deals and that watching the athletes perform gave him incredible anxiety. Suddenly, I understood that. It was because he cared about people, like I did with Chase, like God does for me. As soon as I was away from the group of people and standing in line at the wax... Actually, okay, sorry. I just was having a thought. It's so funny because I sometimes will have a thought, but I want to keep reading to keep it going. But then I'm like, oh, but I like that thought. So that one, I actually kind of liked that he said that watching the athletes perform gave him incredible anxiety. Suddenly I understood that. It was because he cared for people, like I did with Chase, like God does for me. And what I loved about that is that God cares for us just as much as we care for other people, but even more than we care for other people. And he cares for us without anxiety. He cares for us with full knowledge of everything that's going to happen, of all of the good that's going to come out of even unfortunate circumstances. And I just feel like that's one of those thoughts or truths that is so comforting to me, because I just can rest in the fact that God knows. God knows. He's there. He's with me through all of it, but he knows. And he knows that he's going to work it all for good. And it's very freeing to me. As soon as I was away from the group of people and standing in line at the wax station waiting for my skis, I realized the crowd of spectators could be seen from here. I scoured the crowd for a beautiful brunette with bright eyes and a white coat, but I didn't see anyone. Catching my eye was the side profile of a woman who looked very familiar in a bright red coat, one that was too bright to ignore, kind of like Presley. She turned at that moment and smiled at me. It was Presley! I smiled back as she sat on the bleachers. No doubt she was freezing. Though the winter games were starting soon, it was only about to get warmer for me, but not for her, sitting still on a set of metal bleachers. Once I grabbed my skis and thanked the man for working on them, I gave them a quick inspection and saw all was well. Then I went looking for Jack. I had a favor to ask. There you are, I said, finding him in the women's ice skating competitor's tent. How did I know I would find you here? I cocked my eyebrow. I can't help it. I'm a man who loves a woman in sequins, so I'm here seeing if any of these beautiful ladies are single. Look at her. She has crystals on her eyelids. Jack looked at the woman in awe. He was a nice man. I never saw him objectifying or being inappropriate around women, but he was incredibly lonely, and I wished he could find a wife. He wasn't yet 50 years old. There was still plenty of time for him to have a family even. I was hoping you could do me a solid, I said, talking close to his ear so others wouldn't hear me. Sure, of course, Ford. What is it? There's this girl, I started out, but I could barely verbalize it. She's magnificent, I said, drinking in the facts that I was too stubborn to see before, and she's sitting in the grandstand right now, no doubt freezing her tail off. Jack smiled and nodded, putting his hands on my shoulders. I got you. Which one is she? He asked. Her name is Presley. Bright red jacket, black pants. The most beautiful icy blue eyes you've ever seen. You know, I'm also in the market for such a woman. I cut him off. Nice try. Don't go stealing her away from me, okay? Jack rolled his eyes and smiled. I'll try not to, but if she takes one look at me and decides she wants an over-the-hill, chubby, lonely son of a gun over Mr. Handsome Athlete, I'm going to run away with her. But I promise to send you a postcard from our honeymoon. In our weird language, this was Jack promising me that he would go above and beyond for me, and I had no doubt he would. Several minutes later, we were readying our places. The races were about to start. First up was Gunnar Matthias from Bighorn, Wyoming. He was a few years younger than me, but he had been the He was a few years younger than me, but had been... What? He was a few years younger than me, but had been the last few years. We'd raced in the same circles before, but I never got to know him personally. This is his first time at the Winter Games, and I was sure his nerves were over the top. His rider, on the other hand, I'd known for years, and had an infectious personality of joy. "Mark Westerly," I said, shaking his hand. He was smiling ear to ear. "Ford, it's been forever, though it feels like I see you every time I open a magazine, turn on the television, or walk through a sporting goods store. They got that mug of yours sprawled out on every surface." We both laughed. "My manager has to work long hours to convince the brands, and then me, it's borderline ridiculous. I'm sorry you have to see me at all out there." We both laughed. While I was thankful for the brand deals, sometimes it did feel overwhelming. "Good luck today. We're up. See you next time." Mark trotted off on his horse while Gunnar gave a salute. He was deep in concentration, that much was obvious. "Good luck to you both," I hollered back. Chase and I were set to immediately follow. Any moment now the cameras would be facing me, as Theo McCain would be audible across every television and live stream in the world that was tuning in. He would say who I was and my past accomplishments. Theo would broadcast my fastest times to date and how I won the Winter Games the last few years. He might hint that it was time to pass on the torch to some younger competitors like he did when he retired from ski jumping after his big Olympic win. 25 years old isn't old by any stretch of the imagination, but in this game that requires explosive power landing jumps at high speeds, it's not uncommon to blow a knee and be done early. The course was spread out in a giant horseshoe shape. It consisted of plastic sticks standing up together called gates that skiers had to go through. In addition to making it through the gates, skiers had to grab individual plastic rings that they collected on their arm by putting a hand through them like a giant bracelet. Then there was a series of jumps randomly placed that the skier had to execute while remaining upright. Of course, they had to do all of these things correctly while working the 30-foot rope perfectly and having the knowledge of what a horse might do. The anticipation and knowledge of how a horse can and will react to certain things might be the most important part of ski joring. To be a horseman and a skier is a unique combination, and it's what's required for this sport. You also have to have the ability of not toppling over as the horse kicks up snowballs, perfectly formed by their hooves and coming at you like baseballs at a batting range. Once I took one in the neck. It was not fun. Thankfully, with all the fresh snow, I wouldn't be fighting with spots of mud. Nothing ruins your race faster than a spot that's been warmed by the sun. As I watched Gunnar and Mark go through the course, I winced when Gunnar missed going through the third gate. There was a major benefit to not going first, because he could see the course with a better set of eyes, but I felt for Gunnar again as he failed to collect a plastic ring. On the last jump, Gunnar took it a little too far to the left and tried to overcompensate by tugging on the rope too hard, and wiped out, having the rope pulled from him at high speed. Disqualified. Next thing I knew, the cameras were all pointed to me. A television screen had my face zoomed in, and you could see my cold breath in the air. As the horse got ramped up, knowing it was about to race, our time officially started when I crossed the line ahead of me. The man next to me holding my rope, so it didn't get wet, released it to me. I took a deep breath, knowing any second Chase was going to take off. I looked over to the crowd and saw Presley sitting with a fluffy lap blanket, a dozen red roses, and a hot chocolate. How in the world did Jack pull that off so fast? I smiled, and as my face was covering every sports news outlet in the world right now, including the large television that Presley was watching, I hoped she knew that smile was for her. I had seconds left to get my head in the game. God, please help me win, for your glory. The announcer said it was our turn, and Chase and Buckshot were out of the gates with more intention and speed than I knew possible. I expertly tore through the gates, grabbing the rings like my life depended on it, and like Chase's future in Sage Mountain, a place he wanted to call home, depended on it. Because it did. The first jump, I landed perfectly. The torches lit as I rode through a checkpoint, while the crowd excitedly rang cowbells in the distance. I grabbed another ring, went through several gates. The second jump, a breeze. I thought of everything and nothing at the same time. I was both holding my breath and breathing harder than I ever had in my life as the horse kicked up ice chunks that were pelting me. This race, with Presley and my brother tuning in to watch, with people that I loved and cared about wanting me to win, I wanted to make it happen more than anything. As we turned and did the last set of gates, I heard Theo McCain say, "And this performance right here is what we've grown to expect from Ford Prescott." His words got in my head for a moment, and I nearly missed the last gate. I nearly tumbled. I nearly wiped out. But I yelled out to God at that very second and felt a renewed strength in my grip on the rope, a stronger will to remain upright. This win wasn't for me. It was for everyone whom I loved. Oh! Ooh! The last jump came, and I landed it, but I landed too hard. No one knew the difference. But when my skis touched down on that snowy landscape, I felt something happen in my right knee, a slippery spot, and I overcompensated. Still, I didn't let it hold me back. My body could break, but I was going to keep fighting for those whom I cared about. Boof! Okay? That's a great line. When we finished the race, I had sweat dripping down inside of my goggles. My gloves were about to slip off from the sweat inside them. It may have been just a few minutes of a course, but I felt like years had been shaved off my life. But when I looked at Chase, I knew we had just done something huge. He smiled, dismounting from Buckshot, and gave me a hug. The rings around my arm were the reminder of what we just accomplished. I stood there, feeling my knee as it throbbed. They said it was the fastest time in ski joring history. Jack came to me on the sidelines and kissed me on my sweaty cheek. "You've just made me the happiest manager in the world, kiddo." Chase was already calling his wife. There was still a handful of competitors, so I wasn't sure why everyone was already thinking this was a win. I voiced that very concern. "Sure, Ford, someone could still win. They would just have to beat the current world record for this length of course that you just set." Jack shook my shoulders. "You're a hero, Ford. You've done something huge here. Once the shock wears off, you'll get it." Jack went to talk to Chase. Theo McCain's assistant came over and asked if I would do an interview after the games were wrapped. I thought about it for a moment, having shied away from the press for several months, but changed my mind. Suddenly, everything was clear to me. "Yes, I'd love to." She excitedly agreed and told me where to meet him after. The rest of the competitors came and went while I took respite at the medical tent. From their analysis, my knee had no swelling and full range movement. It was possible I had just landed on it too hard, and I was lucky I didn't tumble from it. At some point, Theo McCain made a statement prepared by the Wyoming Cowboy Ski Joring Association regarding the cheating scandal and the measures that were in place now to ensure it wouldn't happen. He went on to say that all accusations aside, they had no way to retrospectively prove something, but today everyone could be assured there was no cheating involved. I was pleased with the task force on hand and also that we could forgive and forget. It was kind of my new thing. The rest of the competitors went, with the last one being the strongest contender. I was actually starting to feel a little worried after he took off out of the gate with his speed. He was smaller than me, which a lot of the times the lighter you are the better, and his horseback rider was very intuitive, like Chase was for me. The skier took each jump and ring, and Chase and I watched in silence as they finished the course. My time was 1 minute 15 seconds. This rider was 1 minute 20 seconds. I let out my breath I'd been holding in the entire time. "Lord, thank you." "I can't believe it," Chase yelled. "I'm going to be okay. I'm buying a house, Ford. My family's going to own a home in Sage Mountain." Chase had tears in his eyes. "Thank you for giving me the opportunity to make this dream come true, and for winning me $75,000. He hugged me. "Chase, you did just as much as I did for that. You're an excellent rider. And about the money, why don't you take this check for yourself? Take the burden off of that mortgage a little." Chase started bawling and hugged me again. "I can't do that, Ford, but you are such a great guy," he said, weeping. "Yes, you can, Chase, and you will. I mean it. I'll sign the whole thing over to you. I want you to be here in Sage Mountain where your family belongs," I said, and he nodded. I was blessed. I didn't need the money. My brand deals alone were what paid my bills. I bought a swatch of land here a few years ago before things really blew up, and then I had the chalets built on them. The rental income would be more than enough for me. I'll never be able to repay you, Ford." Chase looked at me with more joy than I'd ever seen in another person's eyes. "You don't have to. It's my gift. Anyway, we better go," I said, looking to the grandstands. I'd told Presley to meet me at the chalet around 6, but I had this interview to do. I would ask Jack to pass the message along, but suddenly he was nowhere to be found. I wished I had gotten Presley's phone number. I only had several days to do it. I signed us up for an interview afterwards. Chase shook his head. "They don't want me, Ford. They want you. Thank you for including me, but I have a house to buy." Chase smiled and left. "Theo McCain," I said, walking up to the interview tent. He was all set up with a chair waiting for me. "Ford Prescott, part of the winning team for ski joring at the Winter Games. How many years in a row now?" "I've been blessed, though I don't deserve it," I said. Theo's eyes squinted. That wasn't exactly the victory speech that a guy with a pretty big ego himself was waiting for. I took a seat, ready to bear it all. Ooh, yeah, let's go. Okay, that was the end of chapter 10. We're currently at 91%, so definitely going to finish this book today. But I'm excited to see how this, how they repair and how they fully, the love declaration is ultimately what I'm waiting for. Okay, chapter 11, Presley. Hot cocoa and hot takes. Jack, Ford's manager, was sweet enough to bring me a warm blanket and a hot chocolate from the athlete tent and a dozen roses that were for sale at the florist that he walked past to buy said blanket at the luxury home store. I was completely blown away. "These are technically for me, but Ford asked that I take care of you," he winked. He was a charming man with kindness in his eyes. "But don't go fall in love with me, honey. Ford said you were his." My cheeks reddened at his words. Ford said that? It was everything I could do to keep my composure. Jack tilted his head back and forth. "In a roundabout way, yes," he smiled, revealing his gap-toothed grin. I was blown away by his statement. "But I heard him on the phone. Actually, he was talking to you." I stood, needing to work this situation out in my head. "He told you I was just a lot, and that's it. I didn't hear anything else." My use of air quotes while wearing mittens was wildly ineffective. Jack shook his head. "I don't really remember that, but what I do remember is he just said a few minutes ago that he wanted me to take care of you out here, and he made it clear I wasn't to go make you fall in love with me instead. I'd say he likes you, sweetheart." Jack smiled one last time and walked away. I was holding everything in my arms and carefully sat my drink down to handle the rest. I decided to wait until Ford raced before I would start overanalyzing the rest of the situation, so I could focus all of my energy on praying for his victory. Watching Ford expertly traverse the ski joring track was inspiring. Now I knew what the big deal was. Now I knew what the big deal about it all was for. Okay, I have to say, there's definitely been sentences in here that I feel like, I don't know if it's just because I'm reading out loud or if I'm like, okay, sorry. Let me restart. There are a couple sentences that I don't know if it's because I'm reading it out loud and not in my head that I am stumbling over, or if it's because the way that they're written is just not supernatural. But that would be my one like complaint, I guess, about the book so far. But honestly, that's not a big enough a complaint to have like major thing about it. Anyways, aside from his incredible looks, he was truly the most talented skier that took the track. Once I started watching, I became fully immersed in the sport and had let everything else go. Ford was by far the fastest racer until the last pair went. That team was almost just as fast, but not nearly as skilled in the game. Still, it seemed like the other racers didn't even compare to Ford's team and ability. I was feeling very proud by the end of it. Since I was meeting Ford in a short while back at the chalet, I decided to go back to mine, change my clothes, and warm up. Feed Priscilla and eat a good meal myself. I was very much craving something warm, cheesy, and carb-filled, but with this blanket and roses, the hot chocolate fully consumed, I couldn't really carry a pizza back with me, too. As I started my walk back to my rental, the TV screen flashed a notification that Ford would be interviewed in the next few minutes by Theo McCain. I stood still, not sure if I had time to make it back to tune in on the television or if I should just stay. Ultimately, I waited. I was already standing outside of the grandstand, so I wrapped the faux fur blanket around my body and bore my eyes up at the screen. It showed Theo McCain ready to interview as another commentator spoke about racing facts and highlighted a few clips from the best moments of today's ski joring event. Then it was cut as Ford appeared on the edge of the screen. He said a few words which were a bit mumbled, and a woman came on and clipped a mic to his coat. He had his helmet on still, but his goggles were up. He looked tired, like he was up all night. I found myself wondering how things went after I stormed out last night. Clearly, for us to go from there to him sending me a blanket and Jack improvising with flowers, something happened. Ford took a seat, and the conversation went back to Theo. So, Ford, you were saying that you had something to say? Theo looked uncertain. He seemed the type that liked to remain in control, but Ford was an athlete and a Wyoming heartthrob, so he gave Ford the reins. Yes, I do. I was saying that I don't deserve to win. An audible gasp was heard around me. I wasn't the only one hanging by a thread. Whoa, Ford, does this have something to do with the cheating scandal? Are you admitting to the use of bribery? Theo frantically looked around to make sure the camera was rolling, and he gave someone a thumbs up. Ford shook his head. No, never. I've never needed to use those tactics to win. Theo almost looked disappointed that he wasn't getting a live confessional, and we have taken the steps to ensure there are drug tests before races from now on, so that scandal is over. People clapped. All of that worrying and stress over the last few months was just cleared up. What I'm saying is, I have fallen so far from God, and yet I won anyway. Today's win was all for his glory. All of my career was all for his glory. People started clapping again, and Ford kept his eyes on Theo. What do you mean, was? Theo quizzed him. Good catch. That's the second point I'd like to make, something I've been considering a long time now. I finally realized now is the time. I'm announcing my immediate retirement from professional ski joring competitions. Another gasp in the crowd. My jaw dropped. This handsome cowboy, the face of the sport, was leaving? Well, that certainly is a surprise, Ford. What's next for you? Theo looked like all of his hopes for this interview had just been washed down the drain. I'd like to start a ski joring training camp and fellowship for youth. I want to give back to my community and focus on my personal life and my walk with God. If my jaw wasn't already hanging on the pavement, it was now. That all sounds very good, Ford, but may I ask what brought this all on? Theo was scratching his head with questions. I was too. Of course. This week, I met someone. A woman. A few whistles were heard from the crowd. I held my breath. And she is just a lot. He paused and I waited for a public humiliation. A lot different from anyone I've ever met. Yes! Oh, this is awesome! Ford turned to the camera, and I felt like he was looking right at me. She's a godly woman with morals and standards, and she does not take a moment for granted. Presley, you inspired me. Oh. Presley, you inspired me to reconnect to God after I had fallen so far away from him, and I want you to keep inspired. Oh my gosh. Sorry, guys. Oh, jeez. She's a godly woman with morals and standards, and she does not take a moment for granted. Presley, you inspired me to reconnect to God after I had fallen so far away from him, and I want you to keep inspiring me if you'll agree to be my girlfriend. All the color drained from my face. I had it so wrong. When I stormed out of Ford's chalet, he didn't correct me. How was I to know what he meant? What was he going to say if he finished that sentence? My fears and past hurts had become a part of who I was. While I had forgiven the men who had told me such hurtful things, I had not been able to forget. And that was the lesson I needed to learn through all of this, just as God forgets my sins after forgiving me. Ford and Theo wrapped up their interview with a cordial goodbye initiated by Ford as he stood up and shook Theo's hand. Theo remained sitting, surely still surely still processing what had happened. I walked back to the chalet. My snow boots proved to be a little tricky on the icy street as I crossed it. My stomach, which was growling just a few minutes before, was now jumping. What was this feeling I was experiencing? My nerves were electrified. I thought of all the things I wanted to say to Ford, including an apology. My body felt a rush of adrenaline. This was excitement in its purest, richest form, and I wanted to savor it. Back at the chalet, I couldn't wait to tell Priscilla everything. I originally wanted to cook up some macaroni, but now I craved something light. My appetite was almost gone, but I knew I needed to eat if I wanted the energy to walk around with Ford tonight. The only food I left behind in the chalet was a small TV dinner. Perfect. After I ate, I fed Priscilla and played with her. In this climate, I was thankful the dress code would be what I was already wearing, and I didn't have to worry about clothing. My hair was another story. I took a mental inventory of what hat or earmuffs I could wear tonight, while Priscilla squeaked her toy as loud as she could. Finally, it was 10 till. Ford would be meeting me at any moment. As I brushed my teeth, my heart skipped a beat when I thought about the fact that he had asked me to be his girlfriend. I just needed to accept. Little thoughts started penetrating my mind, like maybe he changed his mind, or what if he doesn't show up. I knew these thoughts weren't from God, so it made it easy to narrow down where they did. I knew these thoughts weren't from God, so it made it easy to narrow down where they did come from. Years ago, someone told me that God is love. He doesn't send us doubting thoughts that make us writhe with anxiety or despair, and that we must keep our minds and hearts guarded, because the devil wants to wriggle into our thoughts and make us feel weak, defeated, playing our shame on repeat. This is exactly what I'd been allowing to happen in my mind for years. God, please give me strength to overcome these thoughts that are making me feel small. By your grace, I have been forgiven. And help me remember that and not entertain anything otherwise for even a second. I don't want to waste any more time on my past. Praying felt so good that I forgot I was still holding a toothbrush when a knock came at the door. Priscilla started barking her head off, alerting me that someone was here. "Come in," I called, since I knew it was Ford, and heck, he owned the place. "Presley?" Ford called out. "I'll be right down," I said, quickly spitting out my toothpaste and doing a mouth rinse. Sparkling clean. "How is my favorite little dog doing?" Ford said, loud enough for me to hear as I was coming down the stairs, dressed in my ski clothes from earlier, but wearing a black woolly hat with a fuzzy ball on top, and with makeup on. Waterproof, because nothing makes your eyes water more than the cold air. Priscilla's inner monologue. "What? No flowers for me? Don't tell me Jack couldn't send a charcuterie tray. Amateur move, Prescott." "Hi," I said, my voice shaking. "I just want to say something," I said. I couldn't stop trembling. I took a few steps toward him, but Priscilla was running laps around us, and we both laughed, lightening the mood. "No, you don't have to say anything." Ford shook his head, but I put my hand up. "Please." I held my hand in the air. "I'm sorry. I made a horrible assumption based on my own baggage. I just want to let you know that I have let all of that go, and if the offer is still on the table." I crossed my arms gently, trying to tiptoe around the relationship question because I couldn't let it go. I wanted to lock this in. "Presley, let me do this right," Ford asked, smiling. "I also would like to apologize for holding back. I had some forgiving to do, too. It's done. I am free from the burden of hurt, and yes, I would like to date you, or rather, court you. I want to do this right. Once a boundary is crossed, you can't put a genie back in the bottle. You know what I mean?" I smiled, knowing exactly what he meant. "No more living together. Check." I put my hands up in reference to being in my own chalet. "Exactly. It's just that things can happen, and I know firsthand how easily temptation can take over, but I've been forgiven of my past, if that's not a deal-breaker for you that I have a past." He trailed off. "No, it's not. The only deal-breaker would be if you didn't see that as wrong, because I am abstaining from those temptations, until marriage, I mean," I said. "Not that I would be opposed to a kiss, but you are right. Things get out of hand, and I don't want to lead with lust. Yes, I am obscenely attracted to your looks, but if we are going to do this, I want to focus on what's inside." My cheeks were reddening. Not because I was ashamed, but rather it was awkward talking about something related to physical affection. Ford smiled, and it quite possibly was the biggest smile I'd ever seen on someone. "I love that about you, and I respect that, and want the same for my life. To save myself, who was once tarnished but has since been washed clean in the Holy Spirit, for my future wife." I clapped my hands together in joy. It's so nice agreeing on physical boundaries at the start of a relationship, I said. "Does that mean you want to date me? To agree to this courtship?" He looked at me with a smirk. "Yes, on one condition," I said, letting him sweat for a minute. "Okay, sure. What is it?" "You get a generator in this chalet, because I have a season pass for skiing, and a cute cowboy boyfriend in the chalet next door." Ford playfully pulled out his phone and dialed a number. "Hello? Property maintenance team? This is Ford Prescott, and I need an emergency generator delivery and hookup." I laughed and thanked God for all the blessings he had given me and the lessons he taught me along the way, while I waited for a kiss from my new boyfriend. Oh, cute! Epilogue. Priscilla. This is the dog, Priscilla. Priscilla approves of this message, is the subtitle. Next winter. I wish someone would tell my mom she can't carry a tune. If only I could talk, I would break the news to her. But right now, I don't even care that she's belting out Elvis at the top of her lungs because the long car ride can only mean one thing. We're visiting my favorite person, Ford. Priscilla, do you think that Ford has anything fun planned for us this week? Mom always asks me rhetorical questions. We both knew the ring was coming. It was just a matter of time. We've been coming out here so frequently that I don't see why we don't just live here by now. I'd surely enjoy living in that nice, cozy chalet. Especially now that the chimney has been fixed and my mom can start as many fires as she wants. With Ford's help, of course. Ford came out to see us last month. Well, he says he's visiting my mom, but Ford and I both know that he can't get enough of me either. Which is good, because Mom and I are a package deal. He stayed at a fancy hotel, which was very much to my liking. It smelled like Chanel perfume and had art that rivaled a museum, because they took me with them to one of those too. I get to accompany all of their dates after that misunderstanding that me and Mom had. Honestly, I knew what I was doing. I couldn't bear the thought of being left at home while Mom and Ford were out gallivanting without me, so I might have acted out, as Mom calls it, whenever I do something she doesn't approve of. All I did was replace my chew bone with one of her purse straps. It was one I hadn't seen her carrying in a while, and frankly, by the style and color, which was so last season. I was doing her a favor. That purse was never going to help progress her relationship with Ford. When she got home and discovered my assistance in her fashion choices, she ordered a deluxe stroller that looked like something a nanny for a billionaire might be pushing around. It had gold wheels and a cozy black carriage, very much up to my standards. I approved of it immediately. Mom says God made me too cute for my own good, and now I get to tag along everywhere. I don't miss a thing. Problem solved. One day, on Ford's most recent trip to see us, he took us to lunch. I was pleased that he ordered the steak. We both like ours cooked to medium rare temp, so he shared with me. Afterward, we went for a stroll in the park. It was getting very cold out, and I started to shiver since he hadn't noticed me in a few minutes. He immediately remedied the situation by taking me out of the stroller and suggested we go inside some shops. I wished I could tell him my favorite couture brand is just down the street, Robbins and Barks. They have the nicest sweaters and hair bows. Mom was excited to go into some stores. I could tell she wanted to stop by my store too, but suddenly Ford suggested we go to the jeweler's. Fine, I thought my collar could use some rhinestones. Then Mom got all quiet and weird, which is only half like her. We walked over to the ring case and asked Mom which one she liked the best. I gotta hand it to her, despite some questionable purse choices. The woman can pick out a ring that makes me proud. After quite a bit of awkward fumbling, she tried a few rings on and said that the emerald cut solitaire was her favorite. I was so relieved that she didn't say princess cut. After all, that is my signature diamond. When we got home that night, Mom called everyone she knew to tell them that she'd just got home from ring shopping. Half of them sounded a little bit too surprised, which I took as a personal insult. Here I am working my tail off to help charm this man so that he marries my mom and I can nap on that cozy couch of his in Wyoming forever. And they doubt my charm? We're almost there, sweetie, Mom says, popping my daydream bubble. I feel the excitement washing over me as I sense Ford is near. I can almost smell the hints of hay on him. My tail is wagging faster and faster as we pull into the driveway of the chalet next door to us. I look up and see him. Ford is walking over the door to greet us. After he greets my mom with a kiss, I let out a whine. Where's my kiss on the head? Finally, he comes over to my side of the vehicle and plucks me out of my car seat. Reunited at last. When we walk into the chalet, Mom makes a big deal that it's decorated to the nines for Christmas. It appears that Ford has put up a freshly cut fir tree and it's covered in beautiful lights. After some detective work, I find the tree has a wonderful water bowl for me below it. There are also a few presents scattered about. If he has the sense that I think he does, many of these will be for me. Merry Christmas, Priscilla, Ford says as he hands me a present, and says I can open it whenever I please. I stick my head in a bag and smell a high thread count outfit. I'm pleased. That night, as he is in our chalet for dinner, as in the same one he always puts us up in, he says he has a surprise for Mom. I look up, noticing I am not included. Is there anything I can chew in the general vicinity? Mom asks him what it is, but he says she has to wait. Later, Mom runs upstairs to get ready. We are going on a winter stroll tonight. Mom got me a heated bed for the stroller, so I will stay cozy, but I'd prefer to just be in Ford's jacket, keeping him wrapped around my paw, where he belongs. I have a secret, he whispers in my ear. I look up at him and wag. Yes? What is it? I wish I could speak. Instead, I let out a small bark. Tonight is the night. I'm proposing at the gazebo. It's covered in those little twinkle lights, and a woman with a harp is going to risk the cold air to play a little song. What do you think? Yee-haw, I think. I've successfully charmed this man into marrying my mom. But he doesn't stop there. I'm thinking of giving her these plane tickets, too. What do you think? He pulled out an envelope that contained some paper that I'm assuming are tickets. I don't know. I may be a pampered pooch, but I still can't read. He read my mind. 2 first-class tickets to Italy. And you get to come, too. If she says yes, that is. He laughs under his breath. If only he knew how much Mom was praying for this day to happen. Then again, I think he does. When Mom comes walking down the stairs, she looks like she's walking out of a ski catalog. She has the snow pants that look like leggings. I cringe to remember they have stirrups at the bottom. If only I could give her some advice. Please, Mom, do not remove your shoes in his presence. A white turtleneck makes her complexion even more glowing. Soft makeup on her cheeks and a fuzzy hat. She really does look beautiful. I love my mom. Wow, Ford says, agreeing with me. You look amazing. He stands, taking me with him. Thank you, she says, walking towards us. They kiss again, which I am ready to get on with the night. Thankfully, she is thinking the same thing. Are we ready to go? Ford nods, placing me in the stroller. Are you forgetting something, darling? Priscilla just needs her coat, my mom says, realizing the problem immediately. Ford nods, quick to rectify the situation, and puts me in my winter coat. And off we go. Me in my luxury carriage that glides through the snowy landscape, Mom and my future dad with his arm linked in hers, as we venture off to the gazebo to start our future as a family. We love because he first loved us, 1 John 4:19, and under the twinkling lights of Sage Mountain with a fresh blanket of sparkling snow, love had only just begun. Cute! I love that. I'm going to read you guys about the author at the end. Cassandra discovered her passion for writing at the age of 7 when she purchased a diary at the Scholastic Book Fair. What began with journal entries about her school and home life later evolved into a collection of poems, short stories, and novels. Her hobbies include skiing, traveling around the Rocky Mountains, and reading. Much of her writing inspiration stems from her love of dogs, her Onondaga heritage, and her Christian faith. Cassandra's favorite books are Christian fiction novels, thrillers, and anything British. She's a full-time writer and resides in the mountains of Wyoming with her husband, Chad. Cute! Okay. We are done. So cute. Okay, I really liked that. That was super cute. I'm trying to decide if I want to give my thoughts now or if I want to wait and do a full review. And I think I want to do a full review because I want to get in the habit of doing that. But at the very least, I really liked it. I'm going to update my Goodreads really quick and mark that as read. First book finished for June, which is fun. I read 3 books in May. Let me see, actually. I think I did... Yeah, I'm a little behind I set my goal for 50 this year, which I'm not like, I have to read 50 books, but I'm a little bit behind at the moment. But that's okay. I'm also currently reading a book called Tempest in Tea Leaves. It was a recommendation from my sister, and she said I needed to read it, and so I started it. I've been reading it just in my free time, and it's so good. It's giving me Pride and Prejudice vibes, like the 2 main characters that are obviously going to fall in love with each other. They had like this huge confrontation in this ballroom, and it's not even banter at this point. They're like fully enemies kind of, and they are like debating with each other, and it just was giving me Elizabeth Bennet and Mr. Darcy, and it was like the best thing ever. And I always feel like I am low-key kind of jealous of, I mean, obviously I know it's a fiction book, but I'm always low-key kind of jealous of like characters and just in general people that can do that, because I was talking to my sister about it too, and we were saying how I am so bad at debating, and if there's like an emotionally tense moment or you're trying to like argue a point with somebody, it's not like necessarily I devolve, but like I'm more likely to cry and just like be like, okay, fine, you win, than to actually try to prove my point, because I just am not very good at debating. So I kind of like reading it because it just is so fascinating to me. But anyways, so finished with A Chalet Next Door. I'm not sure what I'm going to read next. I am hoping to get permission from a couple more authors to read their books out loud, but I haven't got any yet. So I might just go back to reading a book in my head next week. But we will see. I'll try to see if I can get another book. But if not, I'll just start a new book and read on stream, as always. But yeah, I think that's everything for today. As always, you can go subscribe to my YouTube, follow me on Instagram, subscribe to my Substack. They're all Time to Laugh 34. And if you go to my Instagram, everything will be linked in the Instagram. So you can follow me there. And I will be posting a couple times this week on Instagram. Definitely going to be posting my bullet journal spread once I am finished with it. So keep an eye out for that. Let me know if you guys have any book recommendations for me or have any questions for me. I would love to just get to know you guys better and for you guys to get to know me better. So yeah, just let me know and I will see you guys next week. I hope you have a great week.